Perfect. So we now jump into the last part of our discussion today, which is customer discovery, which we've been building towards, throughout the day. Um, it goes without saying, doing wins arguments. You can have a academic debate for as long as you want on whether approach A is better or whether approach B is better, but at the end of the day, you just set it up, try it out with a small group, pilot it, and you'll realize which one works better, and that is what really separates success from failures. So we've done the customer value proposition fit in our previous session. I would want to put out these two options here: the discovery hat and the pitch hat, and maybe very quickly you could mention in the chat, which one do you prefer? Which approach do you favor as a startup founder, in your work? You can find the
Discovery
chat
hat.
button, the discovery, okay?
Discovery hat.
Anyone else? You can neither
We'll
speak
go
up
with
or
the
chat.
discovery hat. I'll also go with the discovery hat.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, discovery hat, definitely.
Okay. Okay. Now I'll put the more difficult question to you. What is the one thing that you can give one example that you were sure about, that this is something about your customer, and when you spoke to your customers, you were proven wrong?
Well, as I discussed earlier, the thing was like what my perspective of my consumer problem when I started speaking, when I spoke to them while you guys have given me the task. So when I did that, it truly changed my perspective. I was
Can you
like,
give us
oh,
an
that is
example, like a
yeah,
specific example? What
like
was
the
the
most
problem?
important. Like I was more focused on the climate impact on the farmers. Like the climate change has a huge impact over them, but it had an impact. But the most probably they were more focused on the water scarcity issue. Like the water is like there's no more water, which is a climate impact. But I was expecting the climate impact in a way like there were floods and there were cactus attack, locust attack and different other areas. So I wasn't
Mhm.
including water scarcity, that issue with the water climate change. So but
Okay.
what was their perspective? They gave the first number to the water scarcity, and they were like, this is the issue which we are facing. We don't know what is floods, we don't know what locust is, we don't have water to grow our produce, so how are we going to complain about that? So that was something which completely changed my perspective.
Okay, that's good to hear. Anyone who feels pitch hat first? Okay. Just to create the alternate case, I see, Lisa, you've mentioned pitch hat first, so I'll ask you to briefly share why.
I'll go for a pitch hat.
Go for it, Farhan. But let's please keep to time, maybe 60 seconds, and then we'll move on.
Basically, pitch hat in the sense that trusting not only your instinct, but what you've learned over a period or even a small period of time, what you've read. And I think when you go to the customers, especially even initial customers that you go to, if you are more focused, if they get the hint that you're more focused towards learning, and you're not really sure of your material, or you're not sure of what you're doing, don't have enough conviction, chances are you're not going to be able to make that sale and start your revenue.
Right. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I think from where I stand, and this is up to you to look at. I think the process of learning doesn't stop, should not stop at any point in time. Because customers' realities change. You build something for someone today. 5 years later, their requirements might have changed a lot, and so you have to keep iterating and improving. So I'm personally a big fan of the discovery hat. I completely get your point in terms of making a pitch to a customer to buy. At that point in time, you have to be, very certain. You have to have that expert mindset. You have to be able to convince for your sale. But this is a stage where we are, much earlier, where we're building our product and defining what that service will look like. At that stage, I feel like the discovery hat will add a lot more value in terms of understanding what a customer needs. So the most important part is talking to customers and stakeholders. It's those discovery sessions, and there's a lot of different ways you can go about doing this that help you unearth what it is that a customer really needs with respect to the problem that you are trying to solve for, and how real that problem is, right? So you want to understand more about the problem, and you don't want to really lead at this time with answers, but why will they talk to you? There's a bunch of reasons over here, and I'm not going to read out all of them. You can look at them, but I'll give you a few examples. We were building an agri-tech service for dairy farmers in Punjab, and we were working with a partnership between a local mobile operator and a Ghanaian agri-tech company that was working on it. And when we went out into the field and we started talking to farmers about this, you are talking to a group who is often not heard at most levels, whether it is, government, whether it is private players, whether it is the industry. There's very little interaction with farmers, especially with small farmers. So providing a channel where they are heard is important. That's one. The second thing is, when you're upright and forthright in saying that we are here to learn from you, and they are experts in their field, they're experts in agriculture, they are experts about their life and about their problems, so they can tell you a lot about that, right? So that's one. And you will see this applies to most geographies that I've worked in. People are generally very, very eager to help if they feel they can add value. So you'll see them opening up to you and talking to you about those problems, and if they feel that you're genuine and honest in wanting to solve for them. But when you're having these discussions, try to avoid speculation, because when you start creating future states that don't exist today, and you say, will you use this, what do you think will happen over here? It's almost as good as saying, do you think elections are going to happen in May 2023 in Pakistan? You can have all the discussion in the world about it, but it's all speculation. There's a lot more that you can do in by focusing on facts. When was the last time you did X? Or tell me about a time when you did Y. You're asking for specifics, you're asking for facts, you're asking for when something happens to your animal, how do you treat them? You get facts, you talk about the problems, right? Those are the things you should be focusing on when you're having these discussions. And then the key thing is getting to know your customer as well. So remember how we built those personas in the earlier, and we spoke about building personas. You need to identify if this is the person who fits that persona as well. So you need to get to know them a little bit better. And then you want to take a structured approach where you go to the problem, you look at how they're solving for it, you try to understand the problem, and you try to identify whether it fits back with the problem you've identified and the target segment that you've identified. As an example, whenever we go into the field in the context of Pakistan, आप गांव में जाते हैं तो आप थोड़ी देर के लिए पहले 5-10 मिनट नॉर्मली आप एक ओपन एरिया में बैठे होंगे या आप किसी बैठक में बैठे होंगे, वहां पे 5-6 और लोग भी होंगे. आपने जिस बंदे से आप बात करने आए हैं, you have to make that person feel important. आपने उसको बार बार सेंटर ऑफ अटेंशन लेके आना है. अगर आप शुरू में वो प्रैक्टिस एस्टेब्लिश कर देंगे तो आपकी उसके साथ डिस्कशन होगी. अगर आप उन 5-6 और बंदों को भी कॉन्वर्सेशन में शुरू में आने देंगे तो फिर आपकी पूरी डिस्कशन वो डिट्रैक्ट रहेगी. दैट्स वन थिंग टू कीप इन माइंड. द सेकंड थिंग टू कीप इन माइंड इज जब आप वो डिस्कशन कर रहे हो, अनलेस आपने ग्रुप डिस्कशन करनी है, अगर ग्रुप डिस्कशन करनी है तो सबसे फीडबैक लें. बट द सेकंड थिंग इज spend some time getting to know the person initially. You know, क्या कितना एरिया है आपका, क्या फसल लगाते हैं, कितने अरसे से फार्मिंग कर रहे हैं, बच्चे क्या करते हैं, किधर हैं, शहर में, इधर हैं. Get to understand a little bit about their structure and their reality. Trust me, when you do this for 10, 12, 15 people, you'll start to learn a lot more about your target market. That is more than what the problem that you're focusing on. क्योंकि सिर्फ वो एक प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, आपने कल को डाइवर्सिफाई भी करना है, ग्रो भी करना है एज अ बिजनेस. द मोर यू नो अबाउट योर कस्टमर्स, द मोर यू यूज दीज इंटरव्यूज to learn about them, it's beneficial for you. So I'll run through a few things. Customers lie all the time is a bit that I don't fully agree with. It's about how you question, how you place that question. That's why there's the lie. How do you place that question? If you focus on the facts, if you focus on the problems, you will get the information you're looking for. Also, differentiate between behavior and intention. मैं ये करता हूँ versus मैं ये करना चाहता हूँ. These are two very different things. और जो करता हूँ, अगर उसके लिए you can solve well, and in an ideal world if you can match with मैं ये करना चाहता हूँ, that's great. But being able to spot that difference and being able to focus on the behaviors is very, very critical. आप किसी भी बंदे से 4 बार कहेंगे ना कि यार ये चीज आपके लिए अच्छी तो होगी, वैसे ही अच्छी तो होगी नहीं, वैसे अगर आप सोचें तो आपके लिए अच्छी तो होगी, तो वो चौथी बार वो भी कहेगा हाँ यार ये मेरे लिए अच्छी है, आप ठीक कह रहे, ठीक है. So don't let things go to that point. ठीक है. Try to focus again. Be open to receiving that feedback कि यार ये मेरे लिए अच्छी नहीं है, ठीक है, ये मेरा मसला नहीं है, ठीक है. It's much better to know that and learn that now when you're at the start than 1 year down the lane when you've invested time, energy, and resources on building something that is not good for your customer. Okay. Which is why it's always a very, very good idea. Like a key part of it is avoid talking about your solution. You're not here to sell your solution. You're here to understand the customer's need and their problems. So उस चीज के ऊपर आप focus रहें on the pains and problems that a customer is facing, and don't focus on the future state yet. You want to focus on the core. जब आपको वो core समझ आ जाएगा, फिर you can build for the future. And then there's a list of things over here. Again, you can access them on your own time. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. लेकिन इसमें से 2 चीजें मैं बहुत ज्यादा important highlight करना चाहूंगा. एक ये है कि try to do these interviews in pairs. एक बंदा बात करे, दूसरा बंदा नोट्स ले, क्योंकि या आप कोई रिकॉर्डिंग उसकी रन कर लें. रिकॉर्डिंग अगर आप कर रहे हैं तो ethically always ask for permission to record before you start recording. Don't do hidden recording. Put the record in front of the person. Tell them कि यार नहीं. But often मैंने ये देखा है कि जब रिकॉर्डर के ऊपर बात हो रही होती है ना, तो फिर वो बंदा उतना खुल के बात नहीं करता जितना वो एक नॉन रिकॉर्डेड एनवायरनमेंट में हो. So it's better go in pairs. Have one person take the notes. ठीक है. So that's one thing that's very important. And the most important thing, be quiet and listen. देखिए, आप अपने ओपिनियंस बनाने, फॉर्म करने, उनको डिस्कस करने के लिए आपके पास और भी बहुत ज्यादा अपॉर्चुनिटीज हैं, एवेन्यूज हैं, चैनल्स हैं. ये वो चैनल है जिसमें you're there to listen to your customer. So try and focus on listening to your customer. Try and understand their problems, their pains. They are the center, the focus of attention over here, not you. Okay. So ask your question, listen. That's the that's the way to go about it. The ideal solution, the ideal situation would be कि इन discussions के अंदर जो hypotheses आप लेके गए हैं field में, वो जो आपने पहले पूरे सारे hypotheses हमने बनाए हैं, where we said कि this is a pain that the customer faces, this is a potential gain that they are looking for. When you take those hypotheses into the field, without you having to prompt them, if they share that same concern, there's that same problem, that same inclination for gains that you have highlighted, that is the ideal situation. That's where you start to verify. And if not enough customers keep doing that, then you know that that hypothesis starts to hold for a larger population group. So that's one. When it comes to preparing for interviews, always go over your customer value proposition canvas. Think of those assumptions that you've put in, look through your assumptions that you've put through, the hypotheses that you've built, and turn them into questions. Okay. When you talk about identifying customers, go to the personas that you've built, go for the target segments that you've identified, and pick on those target segments. 3 to 5 is a good starting point, but it really depends again on your reality and your business. Maybe you need to do this a lot more frequently. Maybe it's not cost effective for you to do it that frequently, so you do it once every month, but you do it with 20 customers. So think about what's the best way to do it, and then allow time for reflection. देखें आप customer से मिल के तो आ गए, लेकिन unless you come back and you synthesize the information that you got and you make it, you come to certain conclusions, or you come to certain results from that, it's useless. So it's important to come back, set aside some time for synthesis, either within the team who went out for the interviews, involve some of your other team members as well. One of the best practices that I've seen, and this is something that there's an agri-tech in Myanmar called Greenovator. They do this very well. They take their coders into the field. This is not very common in agri-tech especially. You see this with some of the larger tech companies. But when you take your coders into the field, and when they go and they see the customer reality, the communication barrier between your business teams and your technology team starts to diminish, because they start to see the reality for which they have to code that solution. So think about that as well. I'll leave it for you to listen to this article. It's very useful for why it's not, why you can't really partially implement the lean startup process and get away with not doing enough customer research. I mean, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot, basically, if you go about doing that. I have not read this book, but I'll leave it to Lisa to share more about this, Lisa, if you want.
Yeah, sure. Just quickly, it's about, it will go into more around understanding those behaviors between consumer behaviors, decision-making behaviors, but also storytelling. So how people will give you insight into the realities of what happens. And so one of the earlier slides, you're saying like customers lie all the time. And it's not that they attempt to deceive you. It's that they want to do the right thing in every situation. But the reality is they have to take shortcuts. They have to use a product that might not be the best for the environment, or it's, but it's something that they can afford and they can get access to. So when you're seeking to solve a really tricky problem, getting them to understand that you're invested in supporting them is extremely powerful. And startups now have the permission from customers and partners and people in the ecosystem. Startups are really seen as people who can passionately solve a problem that should be solved. And so you have the permission to not know. and to ask questions that help you to really understand. So this book, Talking to Humans, really gets into that mindset of understanding customers, ways that customers can send you down the wrong path with good intentions, but also how to gain confidence in helping them to connect and chat with you. So there's content online and there's really good tips. We'll share some resources through the hub around conducting interviews as well. And if it's been a little while since you did scientific hypotheses at school, like I did, it's a while. There's some really good resources that we'll upload to the hub as well about translating your assumptions into a provable or disprovable hypothesis. So yeah, it's just a nice book to kind of get you comfortable with asking questions and listening without yet getting into sales mode.